Thank you everyone for being here. Like I said before, my name is Christine Penny, and I am the Global Training and Author Support Manager for Cambridge University Press. We're very pleased to bring you a second workshop in a series of four. This is Reasons for Rejection and How to Avoid Them. And we're really excited to kind of be working with authors who are maybe early in your publication journey, or maybe you've published somewhere else, but you want some more information specifically about how Cambridge works. I will say our publishing path, if you will, is probably pretty common among other publishers. But I do think that there are elements about who we are as a publisher that make us unique, which we're going to cover a little bit today. But today's session is geared more toward you and supporting you, especially before, right when you feel like you're ready to submit, but you want to make sure that all of your ducks are in a row. If you're joining us for the first time, we are able to give certificates. However, we are definitely giving certificates to everyone who has joined us for all four of our sessions. Those sessions are running every 3 weeks. They are on Wednesdays thus far. Like I said, I'm intending to run this series again come next spring. Those dates have not been put in yet. So yes, and we are kind of keeping track. Please use the same email address to register, and that way we can follow you better. Okay, I'm going to start by sharing my screen and sharing the presentation. I do often get the question of, oh, will we be able to see this presentation or have the slides? Yes, I will send you the slides. My colleague will do so. These are slides created by us, and we will send you the slides as well as a link to the recording of this session, and that is hosted on YouTube. You should be able to access that for approximately a year, which is great. All right, so today we're talking specifically, I would say more about writing than anything. But there are other points to consider. So these are the three things we're talking about today. If you were in our previous session and our first workshop, that was geared very particularly toward selecting the right journal. Now, the interesting thing in, of course, planning for publishing, you really need to kind of understand that all of these things bleed together. They're all interlinked, right? So if a little bit of this is maybe repetitive from something else you've heard from me, there's a reason for that. Probably if I'm saying it twice, it does not hurt to hear it twice. It usually means it's important, right? So today we're going to cover choosing the right journal and why that matters. And that's, I'm not going to get into the detail that I did in last session, but I'm going to kind of cover that. Then we're going to get into the real substance of this session, and that is writing toward acceptance. A lot of people, I think, get a little stuck in this phase, or they think, oh, if I just submit it as is, it will be fine. But we want to encourage you to submit your absolute best work. And I want to help you with some points of clarity about that. Then we're going to talk a little bit about sharpening your submission strategies. And that's even going to bleed into a little bit more, maybe what we'll cover in our next session, which is geared more toward responding to peer reviewers. So here's an interesting statistic that I found. 1 in 5, so it sounds like 20%, of submitted papers are rejected by editors before they're even sent for peer review. I even read that one of the biggest publishers, some influential journals say that they reject 60% of their submissions without review. You do not want to be one of those 60%. You want to be the 40%. You want to be the outlier. You want to be the one that gets through, right? There's kind of no reason for submitting unless you're really looking to get published. So, I want to start by saying the reason why I am kind of getting a little picky, if you will, is because of who we are at Cambridge. Integrity and ethics matters an awful lot to us. And having quality content that we publish is really, really critical. And essentially, we don't really have the time or the opportunity to be really particular with you and to guide and support you in kind of how to write better. So we want to give you the ways in which you can help yourself, along with our other elements that we do possess to support you. But ultimately, our editors, once you have submitted your paper, they really can't come back to you and say that your writing has too many spelling errors, so then we'll consider it. They're not going to say that. They're simply going to say, this is not a good fit because the quality of your content is not essentially not up to snuff. So all of this is coming from the fact that we want to put out the best possible content we can, which is why I'm going to repeat, hint, hint, to submit your best quality content from when it's ready. And I've said this before, if you've been with us before, we currently publish more than 450 peer-reviewed journals. If you're here to ask me how to pick a journal, I can kind of guide you toward some selection tools. That being said, I can't choose that for you, and I've said this before as well. You know your work best. You are the one who knows where your stuff belongs, and that's going to take some research on your part to sort out where your research could possibly best fit. So, when I'm talking today about kind of where we're at in the publication process, we're kind of at the moment where you're ready to submit your manuscript. So you've prepared your manuscript, you've done the research, you've done the writing, you've done the rewriting, you've done the third draft even at this point, and you feel like it's good to go. Now, I'm going to be kind of the filter for you before you get it and to the point of submission. So when we're talking about like rejections, I'm especially talking about rejections that happen before your content is submitted to other professional reviewers, you won't know who they are, to other reviewers in your field from by the editors. So these red arrows are kind of indicating at what point in the process we're in, just to be clear. So, I like this slide. I think it kind of clarifies. This is just another visual version about the publication process. But you'll see on the right-hand side, we've got some clarification about rejections. And essentially today, we're talking about how to prevent you from getting what's called desk rejected. Basically, they read your paper, the first point of contact after you've submitted, they read your paper and say, nope, and throw it away. Well, not throw it away, but send it back to you. Yeah, so if we're looking at this content, you've submitted to a journal and we want to prevent that. Now, do rejections still happen after peer review? Yeah, and peer review is kind of where we've got that reviewer a little bit, the yellow section, but we're essentially talking about the two orange elements right here. And I'm going to go over these reasons in just a moment. So, here are reasons for rejection. I have a little sad face there because we don't want that to happen, right? So these are the primary reasons for desk rejection. We're talking out of scope. And this refers back to the fact that you need to know that the journal you're submitting to is a good fit. Like it makes sense for your content to be published. So out of scope means it's not what the journal publishes, or it's poorly connected to the journal content. I like to give this example. I recently had an inquiry from an institution in the Africa Studies program, and they said that they were really interested in submitting content to our Africa journal. But if they had not, to me, it was kind of apparent that they hadn't done their research about the journal itself, because the journal editors got back to me and said, look, actually, we're really only interested in submissions from people with boots on the ground who are actively working in Africa. And this institution was not based in Africa at all. They were just kind of doing theoretical or reading research, if you will. So it's really critical that you need to know the scope of what they publish. Something else, and we're going to cover this a little bit more specifically today, we're talking about revisions. So it says revision necessary, meaning it needs revisions to be publishable. It's often a writing problem. Maybe you are not clear. Maybe your argument is kind of mixed up and we're not following you. Maybe your language is not understandable because perhaps English isn't your first language and you didn't get support with that. So Sometimes it's a content issue. I wouldn't say that's always the case. Again, every case is unique. But yeah, these are really some heavy points to consider here. Alternative journal recommended. Now, this is a little bit different. Sometimes a journal, particularly at Cambridge, will like be actually really interested in your content, but recognize that they're not the right journal for you. So they might come back to you and say, "Hey, this is not for us, but we would recommend that you look at this other journal, and kind of suggesting a right fit." And that's a nice little pass, even in a win in a way. Again, it doesn't mean that you'll get accepted at that other journal, but sometimes a desk editor can see, all right, this is better for my colleague, if you will. Or perhaps you're also just getting a complete rejection, which is, of course, not the goal. It's unpublishable for many reasons, writing, content, quality. Maybe it's the integrity of your research. And this goes back to what I was saying about the necessary integrity for us as publishers to have the highest quality possible. Are you referencing legitimate studies? Is your study itself legitimate and does it have quality data, etc.? You can't be standing on foundations that are wobbly, on content that it doesn't hold up itself. So ultimately, of course, we're going to want to support you so your own integrity stands on its own. So, this is a bit of perhaps a repeat from what I've said before, but again, it goes without saying, it bears repeating. So, journals are looking for uniqueness. They're looking for quality value, and scholarly value. Are you filling a gap in the field that's unique and it's weighty and worthy of publishing? It also needs to be very clear. I think sometimes, as in academia, we love to go on and on and on and on and on, and my goal for you is to say that don't do that. Don't get into the weeds of just getting verbose. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. And then, of course, alignment with what the journal is publishing. So these are kind of the three elements that we're going to scope out a little bit more. Choosing the right journal, writing toward acceptance, and sharpening your submission strategy. So again, if you've heard this before, it bears repeating. This is our Cambridge Core page. It's a screenshot of it. If you just Google Cambridge Core, you can also see cambridge.org/core is the page. And this is our online location of every single one of our journals, except for the ones that perhaps were published ages ago, like we're talking years and years and years ago before the internet. But we're even in the process of getting many of those uploaded at this stage as well. But this is where you're going to go and look for a journal. And this is where you're going to be doing your research to decide if the journal is the right one for you. I'm so sorry. This is a repeat of a slide. So ultimately, the question you need to ask yourself is, do your work and goals align with what the journal publishes? And this is where it behooves you to be doing the work behind the scenes on your own. When choosing a journal, and you're going to see this kind of throughout my presentation, you've got some do's and the don'ts. So read the aims and scope carefully. Um, yeah, that kind of is the same thing as alignment. Every journal is pretty clear about what they want to do. They've got a lot of kind of journal pages you're going to have to look at that are going to give you that information. Something else that you can also help yourself out with, scope out whether or not the kind of content that they're already publishing matches kind of what you're going to do. Do you see similar methodologies being used in papers they've already published? Do you see similar, I'm not going to say theories, but approaches that they're using already in papers they're publishing? Or are you doing something so out of left field for them that it's going to be too left field? There is a time and a place, of course, to be the unique one, but I would say for the most part, they're not going to, it's going to be a rare thing for them to go really veer in a completely different direction just for you. We all love to think about the fact that, oh, I'm the exception to the rule. You probably won't be. That's all I'm going to say. Suggestions, review journals you've read, use journal selection tools online. There are many. Yes, to support you in doing that. Ask your network, ask them what they recommend, talk to colleagues. Maybe you've had colleagues that you work closely with, maybe it's your advisor. What have they published in, and are they doing similar things? These are great ways to find the right journal for you. Again, this is a screenshot of a particular journal. We're using the Journal of Child Language as an example. But yes, go and read all of these pages if you think that this might be the right thing. This is going to give you a lot of information. A key publication in the field, etc. I'm reading this big box. This is where they're going to talk about their aims and scope. Look at this. They even highlight it in bold. To be appropriate for this journal, it's very clear. Articles should include some quantitative data analyses, and articles based on case studies need to have a convincing rationale for this design. So they're already clear that they're looking for likely quantitative data analysis. Okay, so if you're just showing up and just kind of giving some like kind of a new approach to some theoretical approaches or a different view without data, it's probably not likely that they'll be interested. They are looking for something that they can kind of stand on, perhaps with numbers and data on studies that have been done. Yeah, that's just an example, but you really need to be sure that what you're looking at makes sense for you and your work. So also compare your work with the journal norms. I think I've kind of said this already. Are they doing reviews? I recently had somebody ask me the question, can I publish a book review in a journal? Well, yeah, but is the journal already doing that? Is that a norm for them? Or do they never do that? Then yeah, don't submit to them if they're not normally doing that. I'm telling you, you're not going to be the exception to their rule. Be familiar with it. And I'm going to say this again, follow the author instructions carefully. I'll go back a slide and I want you to see down here. It's down here on the left. It says author instructions. Follow them. Be careful. Like they're not out, they didn't put their content out there just because they felt like it. They mean it. So if you're submitting and you're not following the instructions, that's going to be whoop, desk rejection. No, thank you. Like they want you to follow those very intentionally. Don't submit your work before it's ready. If you think that they're going to be there for you and they're going to tap you on the head and say, oh, well, not quite. Do you want to try again? They don't have time for that. Sorry. So a premature submission is usually a top rejection reason. So make sure it's ready and good to go. This guy looks like he's having a hard time. We don't want that. Something else, don't mass submit. And I do kind of like that phraseology. Actually, that is not of quality, ethics, or integrity to do that. You need to submit to one journal at a time. And I say this a lot, but I want to make sure that everyone understands how important it is that you are submitting to one journal at a time. That's why your journal selection matters so much because this isn't a CV, your own CV that you're sending to multiple institutions or jobs, and that a lot of people are considering you at once. That is not considered to be quality ethical practice in academia. So you need to be choosing and submitting to a single journal at a time. Don't ignore word limits and formatting. That kind of goes with the author instructions. Again, you will not be the exception to the rule. And don't submit because you think it will look good or if the publication might work out. It's really easy to be like, oh, this is the most popular one, so I should submit to the most popular one and that'll be great for me. It really has the most to do with whether or not you're a good fit. I know I've said that about 6 times, but it's the truth. Okay, now let's get into the meat of this. This is where a lot of people can get tripped up, and it's not because you're a bad academic. It's not because you're a bad writer. It's not because, I don't know, you are not skilled. It's just really making sure that your writing is followable and that you're leading your reader toward where you want to go. So, again, I'm just clarifying this for you. We've got uniqueness, clarity, scholarly value, and alignment. And this is where we're going to talk a little bit more about uniqueness, along with potential clarity. And that's actually going to be a subpoint. So, I've found these and I think they're a bit clever. And so I've kind of kept it and I've added a little bit to it myself. These are the quote unquote ABCs of writing. So we've got A, which is accuracy and argumentation. B is for brevity. And C is for clarity. Now, the word clarity kind of covers a lot of sins, if you will. It covers a lot of our content. But I've tried to break this down so it's a little bit more followable as you're kind of checking your work and making sure that it's good to go and that it's ready, it's really ready for submission. So we've got our A's. Here's a bit of a checklist. I don't know that a checklist is exactly accurate. I am going to give you an actual checklist to use later. But these are things that you need to consider. So we're going to first look at argumentation and novelty of your paper and your work. So you need to make sure that your paper uniquely fills a gap. You also need to state basically, this is how my paper, this is how my work fills the gap in the scholarly conversation. Okay? Say that early in your paper. You can even potentially say that in your abstract. Be really, really clear. You also need to connect your results to the broader implication. A lot of people think that, oh, if I just state my content, people will jump to their own conclusion. They'll get there. I'm going to assume that they can make that leap. Don't do that. And I think I'm going to say, oh, yes, this is kind of the next point. Speak to the reader, lead the horse to water. Tell them essentially what you're trying to say exactly. Don't leave anything to assumption, okay? So interpret the data on their behalf. Make it really, really clear in your argument. There is this, then this, therefore this. This is what this means. This is what I'm trying to say. Say it. Don't be cautious. Don't be clever. Like you're not writing a novel. Like fiction writing or even nonfiction writing is a very different style than a paper for a journal, right? Now, is there a time and a place for telling a story? Of course there is. That's really going to engage your reader so much more, is to guide them from, the beginning of the story to the middle of the story to the end of the story. That is really engaging content and certainly going to get somebody a lot more interested in what you're saying. But you also need to draw the conclusion for them. And that also being said, you need to be coherent. Follow a logical flow. So often people are like, okay, I'm going to start this bit and then I'm going to talk about this bit and then we'll go back here and I'll talk about this. Oh, people can put it together. They can't. Don't. Make it, if it helps you, make a really clear and clean outline for where you're going to go. I function heavily with outlines just to make sure that what I'm saying makes sense and like, oh, does this lead into the next point and does this lead into the next point? Do that for your own work. Can you do that with your paper? When you actually make an outline for your paper, is there a logical, first we're starting here and then it goes to here and then it goes to here. Don't jump or assume anything ever. This is an example of a way that you could structure your paper. There is a lot of these floating around the internet. You can do your own research. I just use this as just kind of one to grab. I think this would probably be geared more toward a scientific paper, although of course there are other methodologies and structures you could use. But this is just an example. So this is called the IMRAD structure. So you would start with your introduction saying, this is this and I will this. This is the point. Tell your person where you're going. Tell your reader, look, this is exactly the conclusion I'm going to draw. That's essentially your abstract as well. Then you're going to clarify your method, basically how you did it. Then you're going to talk about your results, which is your what. My personal favorite are the who, what, where, when, how, why. Those are my favorite questions because they always get down to brass tacks and get you clear. Then you can talk about the implications, the discussion. Maybe you are even talking about, look, these are my limitations. These are the things that I have not been able to cover thus far, but this is where I'm at. And then ultimately come to the conclusion and again, state your point. Something else in terms of writing, just in general, and I kind of put these as little bits underneath, consider having a clear topic sentence per paragraph. Again, that's really going to guide you. Make sure you're going in a logical flow rather than jumping around with your different thoughts and ideas. And again, you're also talking about a complex topic. So if makes sense to you, that's great. But you also need to make sure that you are, again, guiding the person in the right direction because it's so complex. Just because you know everything about it doesn't mean that your reader does. And of course, that's your goal. You're kind of teaching them what you want to say. So you need to make sure that you are guiding them in the right direction. And then transitions matter too. A lot of people are really abrupt. And, I would say that's not the worst thing in the world, but help yourself out, help your reader out by helping things to connect as well as you can. In terms of accuracy, I'm repeating this, follow the author guidelines, follow the author instructions. That's what we're talking about with accuracy in terms of what the journal is looking for. But as far as what your paper also possesses, make sure your visuals are great interpreters. If they are not, if you think it's kind of so-so, then leave it out. If it's not actually supporting and doing what you want, don't bother. Don't use it. It's just, in a way, it will probably be, I question, again, I can't say this for every paper, but lots of times it's a distraction more than it is a support. Make sure that your data is verified, back it up, make sure that you've pulled from really quality sources and not just stuff. We live in an age of misinformation, disinformation, even with the challenges of AI, right? So make sure that you are really founded on clear integrity and content that's real. Make sure all of your citations are correct, tedious as that may be. Now, are there AI tools out there that can help you with citations? Of course there are. And I mean, I find no problem in that because I think that's actually a great and supportive tool. But that being said, AI is not perfect. We love to think that, oh, all of our problems are solved by having, supports out there. It's not necessarily the case. Go back, double check, triple check, make sure your citations are accurate. And then also make sure that it fulfills all aspects of academic integrity, which I think I've said in many ways. Okay, so here's the B. Brevity. You might be challenging me on this point because perhaps I have not been brief at this point. But that being said, be direct. Again, it's so easy to kind of waffle around our points, to like talk around it rather than just driving to what you're trying to say. Just say it. Just say it. Get to the point. Don't overcomplicate yourself. In a way, maybe you're kind of afraid to drive to what you're saying. I don't know. I mean, at least that's sometimes my experience in writing. It's like maybe you actually don't quite know what you're saying, and so you're like talking around it. That's first draft stuff. That's not submission ready. Get to what you're trying to say. Avoid jargon, something else, and that, is really easy to consider. Even us in publishing, we use jargon all the time. I have a new colleague, and I have to watch myself constantly to make sure that she's on the same page as us, because we're constantly just using, publishing lingo. Look, in your industry or in your subject area, it's possible that there's jargon that people use all the time. I get that, and maybe there's a time and a place for that. But I would encourage you maybe to reconsider, depending on who the readership might be. Again, you're going to know that better than me. Avoid passive voice. I'm not going to get into that. I used to be a teacher years and years ago, and we used to kind of encounter that a lot because a lot of people feel that kind of using the it was blah, blah, blah to be kind of more formal language. And it just takes twice as long to get to the point. So use an active verb rather than a passive verb. Again, I'm not going to get into that grammar, but I'd encourage you, if that's unfamiliar to you, start looking that up in terms of the English language. Also, stay away from overly descriptive or unfocused discussion. Again, it's really easy to just start, I don't know, sharing your thoughts because we have a lot of them. Stick to the point. If your thoughts are really valuable and they're actually driving somewhere, sure, include them. But you know what? Nobody really wants to read your journal entry. If you keep a diary, we probably don't want to know, unless, again, it's really critical to how you came to your conclusion. Clarity is our C. Focus on your central contribution. Focus. Drive to the point. Don't talk about 14 different things. One, where are you going with this? Two, state a clear research question. Some people try to squash everything in. Don't do it. Pick one. Um, I'm not going to talk about length because every journal is open to papers that are, longer or shorter. They're all unique. But yeah, drive your point home rather than just saying, this is all my research. Don't dump it on the editor. They won't be interested. Say exactly where you're going and why. And then ensure that each section has a purpose, why it's there, what it's contributing. Don't just again throw in content because it might sound cute. You're not helping yourself. Okay, deliver results sequentially. This again kind of goes with the argument. Go to logic, go to say you always go back to your central contribution, what you're trying to say, and support your statements with figures that make sense. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say. Also, express how you fill the gap. And I've said this before, make it really obvious. Say, my paper fills the gap by, or this is how I am trying to support this field because no one has expressed this before, or this is where I see there's a hole, or this is my theory geared toward this. So that's a little more proposal language. Like I said earlier, express the limitations of your interpretation. That's legitimate, and that's valuable because that's also saying this is what I can and this is what this paper does not do, and that's okay. And also, you also need to be relevant. If you're not being relevant and you're just regurgitating what other people have done, you're not really making a valuable contribution to your field. So fill in the gap and say how you're doing that. And then ultimately, and I'm going to talk about feedback in just a minute, get feedback. Talk to people, talk to your colleagues, talk to other researchers, talk to your advisors, talk to professors. I don't know where you're at in your academic journey, but yes, make connections with others. Ask them to read your work or a portion of your work. Say, hey, does this make sense? And don't be too brittle in receiving feedback, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. This is not, I struggle to say it's not my favorite exercise because I find it a bit difficult because I'm not in science. But I'm going to talk just for a moment about titles, abstracts, and keywords. I'm not going to get heavy into this, but I did think this was a just an interesting exercise to consider. I have a hard time kind of doing this myself because this isn't my field. And in a way, I would want to know more in order to craft a valuable title. That being said, when you're crafting a title for your content, think about short, accurate, incisive in a way, if you can. I wouldn't say this original one is incisive. Stand out, capture attention, make it SEO friendly with really critical keywords that a search engine will grab. Yeah, and make sure that you're including keywords that make sense, also just for the human ear, right? Like capture us, get me interested with what you're trying to say. For instance, this is a first draft title. Effective ultraviolet light on spontaneous chromosome rearrangement in red hens when exposed to ultraviolet light. Okay, that to me sounds like almost the kind of a sentence in your paper, and you're saying like what you've done. Instead, you need to boil this down. Now, I know nothing about chromosomes and red hens and ultraviolet light, blah, blah, blah. So I don't feel like I could, excellently come back with something. But we do have a better title here, which is it is way less wordy. It says what it does. Snappy, short and sweet. Like, look, we've chopped out at least half the words here. And it says where this paper is going without saying the effect of blah, 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 or this is what I've done. It's just talking about the point. Ultraviolet light-induced chromosome rearrangement in red hens. That's what you're talking about. You're not talking about the effect of it. You're not talking about the study you did of it. This is exactly where you're going. Take it or leave it. Okay? Excuse me. Abstracts, really similar principles. So of course the abstract is essentially your summary of where your paper is going. Again, be really clear, incisive, say exactly what you're doing, make it short and sweet. Don't give a lot of fluff surrounding it. Don't make it cute, don't make it pretty. Tell us where you're going. And in a way, grab my attention or encourage me to leave you if I'm the wrong reader. Okay, so summarize the outcome. Check the length requirements. Some abstracts can be longer than others. Maybe they'll say 3 sentences or a certain number of words. Again, check those requirements per the journal. And then discoverability. This I actually do find interesting. Their first 2 sentences will be displayed in search results. So again, think about that if you're getting really specific and you want to be found the easiest. Keywords, this goes for both titles and abstracts. Relevancy, connect your paper to your field. Again, don't use jargon, but do use words that you think people are going to be looking up that you want to actually speak with. Aim for 4 to 8 keywords if you can. I feel like 8 is an awful lot, but that might be a bit more for your abstract. Be able for the search engine to grab where it can. And then again, I'm going back to the concept of discoverability. Use words even that you would use. And like if you wanted somebody looking for your paper, what words would you be using? Whew, okay, we're nearly there. So, assuming you've done all this work, assuming you've done your writing, we're going to talk a little bit, just briefly, about feedback. And this is something you should be doing before you submit, like I said. But I'm going to bleed a little bit into kind of what to do with peer reviewers as well. Once, if you are getting further feedback from peer reviewers that your paper does maybe jump to that stage, but you get rejected anyway. So, before you submit, I highly recommend, I mean, you're going to get this as a presentation, is going to be a PDF in your email. Follow this, dig this out, make sure you've ticked the boxes, whether or not all of these things are completed before you submit. Highly recommend. Built this for you. Hope it's a useful tool. Please use it. Great. Now, this is where you would submit your article. These are on the Cambridge, every single one of the Cambridge Journal pages. And is how you would submit it into the peer review system, is how it's going to go to an editor first, and then it'll go through them and they say, great, this is good enough. And then we can push it through to peer reviewers or say, nope, not it, and send it back to you and say, thanks, but no thanks. Yeah, and that's where you can kind of make decisions from there, which is essentially what our next workshop will be about, a bit more about peer review and what to do. Now, this is a few points about constructive engagement. Seek feedback from colleagues before submission. I know I've said that. I'm going to say it again. Ask people to read your work. I mean, people do this in every industry. Screenwriters do that. They ask their friends and family to read this. Does this make sense? Is this engaging? Is this fun? Because, of course, that's what a movie is meant to be, right? Now, the same goes for your content and your paper. Does this make sense? Does this flow? Do you think it's necessary that I include this kind of element about what I'm talking about, my limitations, or have I gone too far in my own thinking out loud? Because again, we all love to be heard, but we don't need to be heard with every word we would like to say. And then if you're responding to an actual reviewer, make sure you're polite and substantive. Don't just give these little one-liners. If you're giving actual responses to a reviewer comment, this is how we're going to use it. And I'll probably repeat this next time. So take the quote of what they said in their response, and then talk about the action that you could or will not take, as well as your justification for the action that you've taken, and clarify that. Again, it's just kind of scholarly communication, right? It's really easy when people come back and say, look, this didn't work, or this isn't good. I don't think they would ever say that, but maybe you're kind of getting that implication. Don't be defensive. Look, this isn't personal. This isn't them saying that you are a terrible person in your field. That's not it. They're simply analyzing the work unto itself. So don't get defensive. Don't come back with a really emotional response. Don't make it personal. That's not what it's about. And again, we're going to talk a little bit more about that next time. Use feedback, and I'm going to say this again one more time in the next slide, to strengthen your future submissions. Ultimately, if you're getting rejected, you know what? That's okay. I will also say that most people, upon submission, it is so rare for someone to get accepted right away, like just at face value. That is, I mean, I don't have a statistic, but it just kind of rarely, if ever, happens. So use it as a means toward growth. This is just valuable feedback for you. And it's not personal. It's about how to make your work better. Also, I do like this tip, track recurring feedback. Are you getting the same tip every time? Are you hearing from a lot of people that you kind of maybe have a hard time landing your argument, or that you're having a hard time, maybe your flow is out of order. Note that again, that's just we all have blockers, and they're all parts. We each have something in ourselves that we are having a hard time seeing that other people can see from the outside. So take that again as a means toward growth. And then ultimately get support if you're still having a hard time, which leads me into kind of what Cambridge author offers for support. Again, I want to reiterate this. Rejections are not dead ends, but they are valuable opportunities to refine your research and for you as a researcher to grow. So, if you're still having a hard time and you're still getting rejected, and maybe it has to do with your language, or I don't know, there's a variety of struggles, right? We also want to talk to you about what we do have available for you. Now, these supports, some of these are built by editors, especially the user guides. Some of these, it's sometimes an editor will be happy to talk to you, other times they won't. Again, I can't make that call on their behalf. We've got hundreds of people working for us as editors, so I don't know each of them personally. But that being said, use these resources to help you out. All of these are here. This is a great link, and where there's just tons and tons of content listed. It's all on the core page, and it should be visible to you. Now, something else that we do have available, it is not free, and I wish it were, but it is not. But we do have something called author services, and this is meant to help you in kind of copy editing or in kind of analyzing your writing, or even in translation services to make sure that your content is as clean and as clear and as ready as it can be. So, this is a link to that page. Feel free to grab your phone. I just tested this morning, and for me, it did work. So hopefully it does for you as well. If the link does not work, feel free to Google it as well. Just literally Google Cambridge Author Services. It should be the first one that comes up. You can get a quote on this page, and I'll clarify for you in the next couple of slides about how this can support you. So we do language editing. So maybe you're submitting a paper and you just want some feedback on your writing because you're not very confident on it. Great, happy to help. These kind of copy editors are happy to support you there. We also do translations. I think I have another slide where we're talking about what languages we are happy to translate from for you. We also have publication support as well as research communication. Sometimes you might want an actually impactful visual because you don't feel like you're capturing it. Great. They can help you out with that, and they can potentially even help you build something that clarifies what you're trying to say. Maybe also you're having a bit of a hard time kind of going back and forth with peer reviewers because you're just, again, maybe not confident in your language or in your style or your tone. They can help you with this. So this is kind of how it rolls. You would go onto the site, and it kind of clarifies for you the amount of time that the element that you're asking for will take, along with like the level of support. So we've got standard, premium, and premium plus. And again, of course, all of these are unique unto themselves, and you can put in and get a quote just right at face value, which is awesome. These are some of the languages that we do translations from: Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Portuguese, Spanish, any of those. Happy to support with that. I think they're also in process of getting some other languages as well at this point. So, for joining us today. And if you've joined us previously, this is the same thing. By joining us today, we wanted to give you a discount code if you're really keen to kind of get some support with your writing. This is your discount code. I believe it's good for a year. Feel free to use it. There's a little discount code box on the right-hand side of the page when you go kind of click to submit or to pay. And you should get 10% off. Please do be in touch if it doesn't work. It should. But yes, verify that it will work for you. Now, another support available to you are these workshops. Like I said, I'm doing these regularly. This is a link to the core page where all of our workshops are listed. You're welcome to go sign up there. Sometimes I'm also doing kind of general overview stuff, which if you're looking for more about the publication process, I'm happy to support you with that. So we've just done number 2, which is reasons for rejection and how to avoid them. And I will be posting shortly. I do have a QR code. If you haven't signed up for our third workshop, I have a QR direct link for that one set at the same time. I do these twice. This is kind of the EMEA session. This is kind of the time zone geared toward that. It's also geared, I think it also functions with the India time zone as well. Or people who are maybe at the end of their day, perhaps in Beijing, or really late in Australia. Um, yeah, or people who are early risers in the Eastern Seaboard in the US. So yeah, the goal is to try to capture everybody as I can per my availability as well. But yes, we also have another session that will be later in the day in about 3 or 4 hours. If that works better for you, perhaps you're a night owl and you prefer that. Feel free to join us then. So these are the topics that we covered today. Choosing the right journal. We covered a lot of specifics about writing towards acceptance, as well as sharpening your submission strategies. And I will take questions and answers, but before I do that, I do want to make sure that you have this link. Feel free to use your phone to go here. This should also be a hot link when you receive the presentation as a PDF, so you can just go in and click it. Yeah, that should be the case. So for now, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A section, and I will be happy to answer those for you. I'm not seeing any yet. Maybe some people are furiously typing. Okay. So someone has asked the question, how are you going to receive a certificate of attendance? Okay. So what we're aiming to do, is to send out a certificate of attendance to all sessions. So if you've come to all four, you will get a kind of a sort of a certificate of completion at that point. But if you only want a certificate for this session alone, please email us at the academictraining@cambridge.org and request it for this session only. We can send you something, but again, our goal is to send something that's geared toward attending all of the webinars. Thank you so much for those of you who are joining us, and thank you for saying thank you. Happy to help you. Yes, please be in touch if you have any questions. We're happy to support. Let's see, I've answered a couple of questions. I will have a sip of coffee in the meantime. Yes, and this is a great question. Someone has just asked if the first session was recorded. It was, and it is on our page. So I think. I'm actually wondering if I can post that for everybody in the chat to everyone, actually. So if that helps, we are at Cambridge Academic Training on YouTube. Um, mm, Let me see if this actually works at Cambridge Academic Training. Yeah, it didn't turn into a hot link. I'm sorry about that. But you should be able to find it. This is the one I delivered 3 weeks ago. It's public, it's available. It's simply a recording of the meeting. And the other nice thing about a recording is you can scrub through it and kind of jump to points that you're actually more interested in or that you kind of want to repeat, perhaps. But yeah, that is potential for you. Okay. Oops, I've got some questions in the Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing my screen if that's okay. Please let me know if you would like that back. Okay. In the same way that there are author instructions, maybe there could be some kind of criteria for evaluation. Um, I hear you. I can't say that that will happen. Like I said, we've got over 450 journals. And I think that that is their way of saying, look, this is what we're looking for. These are our criteria for evaluation, really, in a way. Um, the other thing is because academia is so, I don't want to say broad, but it's kind of welcoming new ideas. Like the point is to gather new ideas. Um, like, I think to say like these are our points of evaluation might limit them. It's an interesting concept. And I would have to have a chat maybe with some editors about that. But I have a feeling that they feel, that journals feel that they are quite clear about what they're looking for in saying that these are kind of our evaluation things per journal. And I think some journals maybe more are more specific than others. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's an interesting question though, Christina. Thank you so much for asking. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much to those of you who have come and for your responses. Again, so happy to help where I can. Um, yeah, let's see. I've answered this one live. Okay, inside the author's help services, is there an option to have a proofreading for feedback before submitting? Yes, I would say that that's the kind of copy editing one. Actually, let me go back in the slides and we can look at that together. Uh, yeah, here we go. Let me share my screen momentarily. I'm going to do this. Okay, I'm assuming you can see my screen again. Okay, so yeah, that's going to come probably in the English language editing element or in the publication support. Mm. No, I'd say it's more academic translation. I'm not quite sure why they call it translation exactly, but yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting thing. But yes, it's gonna essentially this is sort of proofreading and it's paying someone to proofread for you. I'd say that's more along the English language editing section. If you do have questions, you can actually send us that question again at the academic training at cambridge.org, and we can reach out to those people to verify for you. But from my understanding, yeah, that's what the English language editing element is for, both as proofreading, but maybe also for suggestions or a bit of copy editing to say, hey, maybe this is where it could be better, if that makes sense. Awesome. All right, I've answered a few questions. Happy to take more if you need it. Not seeing any come through. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Brilliant. I'll give this just another moment in terms of our Q&A. Yeah, and then we can move forward from there. But yes, feel free to, this video will be posted on YouTube probably within the next 24 hours. It'll either be this presentation or this afternoon's presentation. Bluntly, they're nigh into identical. I mean, I'm just speaking, but it's the same content. There won't be anything like massively different in any way, shape, or form. So whether it's this presentation or the other, it's the same content. So that'll be posted on YouTube imminently. Yeah, and then we'll send through an email to you with this content. Thanking you for coming. I believe there's also an automated Zoom email for you. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, seeing no other questions are coming through, I'm going to, oops, here's one more. Yes. Seeing no other questions are coming through, I want to thank you all for joining me. It's been a pleasure. And again, if you ever have questions, please feel free to reach out to us either at the OA queries at cambridge.org or academic training at cambridge.org as well. Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be with you, and please let me know if we can help in any way, shape, or form as we get you geared toward getting published. Oh, best idea in the world, right? Awesome. Thank you all so much. Cheers.